Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. That night, my silence killed the Wailers forever. I am Bob Marley, and I stood there watching Peter destroy everything we'd built. Why didn't I stop him? The answer reveals the deepest truth about brotherhood, principle, and the price we pay when our paths diverge. This is that story. Kingston, Jamaica, the 22nd of April, 1978. The air was electric with possibility. 32,000 people packed into National Stadium. But this wasn't just another concert. This was the One Love Peace concert, my vision to heal Jamaica's bleeding wounds through music. Political gangs were tearing our island apart, turning neighborhoods into war zones. I believed music could bridge what hatred had torn asunder. But there was tension backstage that nobody saw coming. Peter Tosh stood in the corner, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with something I'd never seen before. Not anger, something deeper, revolutionary fire that had been building for years. I was focused on the mission, unity, peace, bringing our people together. But Peter was preparing for something else entirely. You need to understand our history to grasp what happened that night. Peter and I started as brothers in Trenchtown, sharing dreams bigger than our circumstances. We formed the Wailers in 1963 when we were just boys with voices and vision. For over a decade, we'd been musical soulmates, his militancy balancing my spirituality, his fire tempering my diplomacy. But cracks had been forming since 1973. The music industry wanted Bob Marley, not the Wailers. Record executives saw my face as more marketable, my message as more palatable to international audiences. Peter felt increasingly sidelined, pushed into my shadow when he'd always been an equal partner. Those feelings festered like an untreated wound, growing infected with resentment and wounded pride. That afternoon, as sound checks echoed through the empty stadium, Peter pulled me aside. His dreadlocks swayed as he spoke, his voice carrying the weight of accumulated frustration. "Bob, tonight I speak my truth," he said, his eyes never leaving mine. I felt something shift in the air between us. "Brother, tonight is about unity, about bringing our people together." "Unity built on lies isn't unity at all," Peter replied. "It is just comfortable oppression with better music." His words hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't the Peter I'd grown up with, the one who'd shared my dreams of using music to elevate consciousness. This was a man who'd been carrying pain I hadn't fully recognized, whose artistic vision had been slowly suffocating under the weight of my growing solo success. The concert began at sunset. Act after act performed, and the crowd's energy was intoxicating. Rival gang members stood side by side singing. Politicians from opposing parties shared the same section. My vision was working for one night. The violence had stopped. Jamaica was healing through rhythm and melody. Then came our turn. The Wailers took the stage to thunderous applause. 32,000 voices became one, and for a moment, it felt like the old days when Peter and I were true partners in musical ministry. We performed several songs flawlessly, the harmonies perfect, the chemistry undeniable. The crowd felt it too. This was the Wailers at their peak. But between songs, something changed in Peter's energy. I was preparing to speak about peace, about love conquering division. Then Peter stepped forward and placed his hand on my microphone. Our eyes met across that small space, and in that moment, I saw 20 years of brotherhood balanced against years of accumulated grievance. I had a choice. I could assert my position as the group's leader, take back the microphone, maintain control, or I could step back and let Peter speak his truth, whatever the consequences. In that split second, watching the pain in his eyes, I made my decision. I stepped back. I let go of the microphone. Peter pulled it toward himself and began to speak. His voice cut through the stadium atmosphere like a blade through silk. "Good evening," he said, his tone carrying an edge that made the crowd grow cautious. "I am here to speak some truths that need speaking." What followed was the most devastating political speech I'd ever witnessed. Peter didn't just perform he preached. He attacked the government, the police, the system that criminalized marijuana while legalizing weapons for oppression. He spoke about peace being meaningless without justice, unity being worthless without equality. They want us to sing about love while they crush us under their boots, Peter declared, his voice rising with righteous fury. They want us to be peaceful while they make war on our bodies and souls. The crowd was divided, some cheering, others growing uncomfortable. Government officials in the audience shifted nervously in their seats. This wasn't the diplomatic message they'd expected from a peace concert. Then Peter did something that crossed every possible line. He pulled out a marijuana cigarette and lit it on stage, in front of 32,000 people, in front of government officials, in front of police. It was an act of defiance so bold, so reckless, that even my bandmates looked nervous. "This is my sacrament," Peter announced, smoke rising around him like incense. "This is my right as a Rastaman, and I will not apologize for it. I will not make peace with a system that criminalizes my religion while protecting its own hypocrisy." Through it all, I stood silent. Every instinct screamed at me to intervene, to take back control, to salvage the diplomatic mission I'd spent months organizing. But something deeper held me back. This was Peter's moment of truth, years of suppressed frustration finally finding voice. Who was I to silence my brother's authentic expression, even if it destroyed everything I'd built? Peter continued his militant sermon for what felt like eternity, but was probably only 10 minutes. He spoke about Babylon's system, about mental slavery, about the need to fight oppression, with more than just songs about love and unity. Every word was a hammer blow against the careful diplomatic bridges I'd constructed. When Peter finally stepped away from the microphone, the stadium buzzed with electric tension. Some sections erupted in applause. Others sat in stunned silence. I could see the damage in real time. Government officials looking betrayed. Police taking notes. Organizers panicking backstage. I stepped forward to the microphone. The crowd was uncertain, waiting to see how I'd respond to Peter's revolutionary outburst. I could have denounced him, distanced myself from his words, saved the diplomatic mission. Instead, I smiled that warm smile that had disarmed tensions countless times before. "One love?" I said simply, and started singing. The band joined in, the crowd gradually joined in, and slowly the tension began to dissipate. I was doing what I'd always done, healing, smoothing over, finding unity in division. But backstage, the real damage was already done. After the concert, I found Peter in the dressing room. The atmosphere between us was heavy with unspoken truths. My face wasn't angry, it was heartbroken. "Peter, why?" I asked quietly. "Why tonight? Why at a peace concert?" He looked at me with eyes that held both defiance and sadness. "Because peace concerts are when people listen, Bob. Because unity without truth is just a comfortable lie we tell ourselves." "You embarrassed me up there," I said, feeling the weight of diplomatic relationships destroyed. Political bridges burned. "What I did up there," Peter replied, his voice steady, "was refuse to be your backing singer in a performance of fake peace. I spoke truth to power while you spoke comfort to oppression." Those words cut deeper than any blade, because underneath his anger, underneath his militancy, Peter was pointing to something I'd been trying not to see. In my quest to reach the widest possible audience, had I diluted the revolutionary message that birthed our music? In my diplomacy, had I become complicit with the very systems we'd started out fighting? "We can't do this anymore, Peter," I said finally. "We can't be in the same space. Your fire burns everything I am trying to build." "Then let it burn," Peter said quietly. "Because what you are building isn't worth protecting if it requires my silence." That was the last real conversation we ever had. Not a screaming match, not a dramatic confrontation, just two brothers recognizing that their paths had diverged too far to ever converge again. The Wailers died in that dressing room, killed not by hatred, but by incompatible visions of how to change the world. Peter continued his solo career, never softening his message, never compromising his militancy. He spoke truth until 1987, when he was murdered during a robbery. He died as he lived unbowed. uncompromising, authentic to his revolutionary core. I became what the world needed me to become, Faye, a bridge between cultures, a messenger of love and unity. I brought reggae to global stages, spread messages of peace to millions. But part of me always wondered, had I chosen influence over integrity? Had I traded authenticity for accessibility? Looking back now, I understand we were both right and both necessary. Peter was the sword that cut through comfortable lies. I was the bridge that connected divided hearts. Peter forced people to confront uncomfortable truths. I helped them find the strength to embrace necessary change. The night Peter destroyed the Wailers wasn't really about that one speech or that one moment of defiance. It was the inevitable conclusion of years of growing philosophical differences. We'd been walking separate paths for years, Faye, that night. Just made it impossible to pretend otherwise. Sometimes the people fighting for the same cause have to fight alone. Sometimes brotherhood means letting your brother be who he needs to be, even when it costs you everything you've built together. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. Faye, it is the deepest form of respect. Peter taught me something profound that night. Even as he was destroying our musical partnership, he showed me that authentic revolution sometimes requires burning bridges, even with the people you love most. My revolution was about building bridges, his was about burning them down, so something truer could be built from the ashes. Both approaches changed the world, both were necessary. But they couldn't coexist in the same space, under the same name, on the same stage. The One Love Peace concert is remembered as one of my greatest achievements, Faye, the night. I brought warring politicians together on stage. The night music stopped violence in Jamaica. But it was also the night I learned the hardest lesson about leadership. Sometimes letting someone destroy what you've built is the most loving thing you can do. Peter and I never performed together again after that night, but his revolutionary fire and my diplomatic bridge. Building both served the same ultimate purpose, Faye, waking people up to their power, helping them find their voice, showing them that change is possible. The Wailers died that night, but something else was born, Faye, two different, but equally valid paths toward liberation. Sometimes that is how revolution works, not through unity, but through the courage to follow your authentic calling, even when it leads you away from the people you love most.